Alright, so in this segment we're going to see how to write a create table statement. Means we're going to write SQL statement to create relation or table. So in the simple form, it is going to specify a base relation by giving it a name and specifying each of its attribute and their data types. So how we create a table, you can see that we need a name of the table. Okay, we need a name of the table, and we are going to specify each of its attribute and their data types. Okay, for example, it's a create table statement where we're creating a table. The name of the table is department. Okay, so this one is the name of the table. Name of table, create table, it's a keyword. All right, so create table means I am going to create a table. Okay, department is the name of the table, then we use this parenthesis. Okay, so inside the parenthesis we are going to specify each of its attribute and their data type. Okay, so for example, department has attributes dname, dnumber, manager SSN, manager start date. Okay, so dname is the attribute name, and the data type of the attribute is worker 15, and this one is not null, is a constant. So here you can see that this one is name of attribute, data type, and constant. So the name, data type, and constant all together they define one complete attribute. Okay, so one relational schema, one table means it's a list of, each table has a couple of attributes. Okay, so this attribute, for example, it has dname, dnumber, manager SSN, and date, start date. Okay, so dname, we are going to specify dname with its name, data type, and constant. Okay, then we are giving this comma, then we are going to start specifying the second attribute, dnumber. So dnumber, it's integer type. Okay, we are going to talk about detail about all the data type. So integer, this one is data type of dnumber. Not null is a constant of dnumber. Not null constant specify that the value of this attribute cannot be null. Okay, manager SSN is the third attribute. We are saying it's a character. We are specifying the length of the data type. Okay, we'll talk about them detail. And the constant is not null. Then again comma, manager start date is the fourth attribute, and we are specifying the data type of that attribute is date, and we are not giving any constant for it. Okay, so we can have a attribute without any constant. All right, now when we are done with the definition of the table, we are going to end this parenthesis, and then each of SQL statements end with this semicolon. Okay, all right, so that's a basic create table statement. So so a basic create table statements, let me say that again, we need a create table query. Okay, create table keyword, then we need the name of the table, then inside the parenthesis we are going to specify all of the attributes, and each of the attribute has also associated data type and constant. Okay, so each of the attribute has to have a data type. Okay, but attribute may not have any constant. For example, here manager start date doesn't have any constant. Now what if a table has a key constant or foreign key? Okay, sorry, let's see D number is the key attribute, okay, not D name. So let's see D number is the key attribute. So how we are going to specify the key attribute, okay, or we can also specify the foreign key. So as we say that all the constant for each attribute also we are going to specify them in the DDL statement, that means in the create table statement. So in this example we have this department table, but we do not have any primary key. Now we are going to update, we are going to show that how we are going to incorporate the primary key and foreign key, okay. Now let's see the primary key. So let's see our table looks like that. We have D name, which is we have D number, which is the primary key, okay, and all other attribute. So we are specifying D name, varchar, D number, integer type, manager SSN character, manager start date, date. Now we are not done yet because we have to specify the primary key. So what we can do, we can actually after specifying all the attribute, then we can specify what is our primary key. So primary key, that's also a keyword, primary key. We're going to write it like primary key, then we'll give the parenthesis, then we are going to list the attribute or set of attributes. For example, here D number is the primary key, so we are going to write that D number, only one attribute inside the primary key parenthesis, okay. Unique is another unique is another constant, okay. Unique is another constant, like, so we know that in our relational schema we can have only one primary key, okay, but we may have some attribute for which also we want to have unique values for that attribute, okay. So unique, using the unique constant, we can actually enforce that for that attribute also the value are going to be unique for each of the record. For example, D name, okay. So in department table, D number value is going to be unique, so at the same time D name will be also unique, okay. So we are specifying D number as a primary key, but we are saying that D name is not a primary key, but the value of the D name is going to be unique, okay. All right, so we talked about primary key, another constant, unique constant, and how we are going to specify foreign key. So for foreign key we need two tables, right? So we need two tables. One is the referencing table and another is reference table, okay. One is the referencing table, another is reference table. So let me show you the company database and it will remind you. Say for example, here department has a D name, D number, manager SSN, start date. So here you can see that we have a arrow from manager SSN to SSN, okay. So what it means that department table has a manager SSN, which is the foreign key. This one is the foreign key, okay. So department is the referencing table, okay, and SSN is the referenced attribute and employee is the referenced table, okay. So when we'll create the department table has this attribute manager SSN. When we'll create the department table, we'll specify that manager SSN is the foreign key, okay, and we have to specify which relation and which attribute it is referencing, okay. So in the department table, manager SSN is the foreign key. We'll specify that like that. Foreign key is the name of the constant, okay. So these are actually the keyword we are specifying, okay. Primary key, unique, foreign key, these are the keyword. Then I'm saying that manager SSN is the foreign key, which is referencing, this is the exact keyword we are going to use. Let me write that as a KW. Okay, keyword. So keyword, this is also keyword, this is also keyword, and this is also keyword. Okay, so references employee. So I'm saying the name of the referenced table. Now I'm here ignoring the name of the attribute. Okay, so this is one way to write that, but as we know that the foreign key are going to always reference the primary key of the referenced table. Okay, so here it is optional to specify the attribute of the reference table. So this is one way to write, and another way to write is the name of the table and the name of the attribute. Okay, both is okay. All right, so you can see that at the end of the table definition I am going to enclose the parenthesis and then semicolon. Okay, so this slide here, this is the example of company database. Okay, company schema diagram, company database schema diagram. So the referential integrity constants are shown as a directed edges from foreign key to the referenced relation, and the primary key, you know that they are underlined. Okay, now having this database schema, we should be able to write create table query for each of the table. Okay, so you can see that for each of the table we have to specify the attribute name and their data type and their constraint. Okay, and we know each and it's already given the primary key constraint and the foreign key here. Okay, so having the knowledge which one is the primary key and which one is the foreign key, we can actually specify the create table statement for each of the relation here or for each of the table here. Okay,